My mother died quietly. Cassandra arrived loudly laughing at the funeral, wearing white. I was 12. She sold Mom's piano a week later. Last Sunday, I gave Cassandra a lavender-wrapped gift with a smile, inside a printed email thread linking her to my father's fraud. This Mother's Day, she'll open it in federal court under oath. Subscribe so you don't miss what's next. Before Cassandra, Mom and I spent hours in the garden. Tulips were her favorite, yellow ones lined our path. After she died, Cassandra paved over it, calling it maintenance-friendly. One day, I found Mom's journal tucked inside her recipe binder. Page after page detailed transactions, suspicions, and a lawyer's name, Henderson. At night, I traced Cassandra's signature on a forged transfer document. I was only 13, but I know what theft looked like. Cassandra praised appearances. She forced me into cotillions, debutante parties, anything to show off her refined family. But at night, I read through Mom's files, noting dates and beneficiaries. One name kept repeating: Adrienne Walsh. I mailed a copy of one bank statement to her with a note from Ellen's daughter. Help me. A week later, a burner phone arrived in a book titled Legal Strategy for Minors. The game had started. I never looked back. Cassandra called me darling in public and useless behind closed doors. I recorded both. Every night, I logged into a secure cloud and uploaded evidence documents. Audio clips, transaction screenshots. Adrienne verified them quietly. My father noticed nothing. He was too busy flaunting deals to his old Wall Street friends. The garden where tulips once grew now held surveillance devices under fake rocks. I wore pearls to brunch and whispered updates into a lipstick make afterward. Cassandra's shopping trips were my data-gathering missions. I mirrored her style: heels, blazers, fake laughs, and mirrored her drive greed. At Bergdorf's, she met a man named Wexler. She whispered about liquidating early and the Cayman safe. I pretended not to hear. That night, I traced Wexler's name to a shell corporation tied to our family trust. Adrienne called it a gold mine. I called it leverage. Tulips may have died, but my roots were thriving underground. Dad once called Cassandra the brains of the family. I smiled while noting his offshore transfer log. One afternoon, he left his laptop unlocked. I snapped photos of passwords, emails, encrypted folders. Later, I watched him boast on a podcast about ethical capitalism. Nora Collins, our lawyer, nearly choked laughing. We'll use that. The kitchen smelled like rosemary chicken. Cassandra complimented my table setting. I thought about the bifolder under my bed. Almost poetic, really. When I started asking about Mom's estate, Cassandra staged a breakdown. Tears wine. Your mother never wanted you to know how much you failed, she sobbed. I hugged her, wiped fake tears from her cheek, and dropped a listening device into her purse. That night, she called someone named Lance and mentioned destroying the backup drive. But I already had it. It wasn't rage I felt, it was confirmation. She was cornered. And I was ready. A week before Mother's Day, Cassandra found my drawer of garden tools. Thinking of starting fresh, she joked. I nodded. Underneath the trowel sat my flash drive, encrypted, disguised as a vintage music keychain. That night, I handed it to Nora. It contained every transaction Cassandra made in my mother's name. Adrienne labeled it probable cause. Cassandra thought I was trimming hedges. I was pruning dead branches, the kind that poison everything if you let them grow. I planted tulip bulbs at midnight 12. For each year Cassandra replaced my mother. As I dug, I replayed her last voicemail: don't bring up Ellen, it's tasteless. In court, it would prove motive. A neighbor's dog barked, but I didn't flinch. Under the moonlight, I sealed the soil and whispered. For Mom behind me, the house glowed with curated lies and crystal chandeliers. Beneath my feet, truth was blooming, and I had finally watered it myself. On Mother's Day morning, Cassandra wore Chanel and a smug smile. I handed her the gift-wrapped folder labeled for the woman who replaced my mother. She scoffed until she saw the buy seal on the documents. Her hand trembled. Dad asked, "What is this?" I replied, "Truth with footnotes." Cassandra stood frozen as agents stepped from a black SUV. Her empire was paper-thin, and I'd lit the match. The living room turned courtroom. Cassandra screamed that I'd forged everything. I handed the flash drive to Agent Monroe. Time-stamped, verified, ready. My father backed away like she was radioactive. Adrienne arrived, calm and lethal. She nodded at me. Nice execution. The agents led Cassandra away in cuffs. She didn't look back. My hands shook, not from fear but release. Mom's justice hadn't come in whispers. It arrived in steel and signatures. Judge Henderson met me in the hallway, offering a nod. Your mother would be proud. I handed him the journal, Mom's handwritten evidence. He cradled it like scripture. We'll use this. And my father muttered something about being misled. I didn't respond. Instead, I followed Nora into a room full of legal files. Cassandra's fall wasn't just personal, it was procedural, and every step of it came from the pages my mother never meant to burn. Reporters swarmed the driveway. I stood behind the curtain, watching them chant Cassandra's name like a fallen queen. Dad called his lawyer. I called Adrienne. Phase 2 begins. That night, we filed for asset freezes. Nora prepped restraining orders. The tulip garden sat quiet. But I knew roots shift before blooms. Cassandra's reign was over. But justice wasn't done. Not until the courtrooms echoed with my mother's silence, truths read aloud for all to hear in deposition. Cassandra tried charming the investigators. Her lipstick matched her lies. I played a clip, her mocking Mom's illness. The room went silent. Nora leaned in, whispering, "She's done." I watched Cassandra shrink in her chair. Decades of manipulation unraveling with one sentence. My voice didn't shake when I said, "You wore my mother's pearls while burying her legacy. Now, you'll wear handcuffs while I rebuild it." Cassandra blinked. I didn't wait for a response. During a recess, Dad tried to hug me. "We can fix this," he said. I stepped back. "You watched her raise Mom." His silence was louder than a confession. I turned to Judge Henderson. Motion to remove my father from trustee rights. He granted it. Dad didn't protest. As he left, I held Mom's journal close. The man who once read bedtime stories had become a footnote in her final chapter. That night, alone, I visited the garden. Tulips hadn't bloomed yet, but the soil felt warmer. I planted a final bulb, one from Mom's original patch, stored in the freezer since the funeral. A symbol of what survived. I whispered, "We won." My phone buzzed, Nora confirming the court ruling. Cassandra's empire frozen, my future mine again. I smiled through tears. Justice didn't need applause, just roots deep enough to hold in any storm. Just when I thought it was over, a sealed envelope arrived addressed to me in Mom's handwriting. It had been in Henderson's possession. Only give to Emily if she fights, it said. Inside was a notarized document naming me sole beneficiary. Filed before her death but never recorded. Cassandra had intercepted it. I stared at the paper, breath caught. Mom had trusted me to finish what she started. Even in silence, she led the charge. Wexler, the man Cassandra whispered to at Bergdorf's, turned out to be an undercover agent. He'd approached Adrienne weeks ago, suspicious of a Ponzi scheme linked to my father. Everything Cassandra said at brunches, thinking it safe, was recorded. You were bait. Adrienne confessed. My manipulation wasn't just revenge, it was leverage. The judge offered me a protected statement option. For the first time, I wasn't hiding behind passwords. I was standing in court by name. Cassandra filed a last-minute appeal, claiming mental distress from a manipulative teen. The court requested psychiatric records. Turns out, Cassandra had faked a therapist's signature, something I caught years ago but saved. Nora presented both versions. The judge raised an eyebrow. Forgery to defend against fraud, noted. Her appeal evaporated. I didn't gloat. I documented. Every lie she told became another seed of truth in our growing legal garden. And this time, she couldn't uproot it. Dad, fearing indictment, offered me a deal, drop charges against him in exchange for Cassandra's remaining accounts. I stared at the man who once stuck me in at night. You picked her, now live with it. Henderson advised I accept strategically. So I took the accounts and transferred the funds to Mom's foundation. Publicly, the press swarmed. Dad went silent. Redemption didn't require forgiveness, it demanded visibility. And I made sure they both were seen. At school, rumors spread. Mob princess, they whispered. I didn't correct them. Let Cassandra's legacy turn into my shield. Principal Myers called me and worried about reputation. I handed her a press packet from the Dodge. I'm a protected minor, not a delinquent, she nodded. Flustered. For once, my age became power, not limitation. Cassandra used etiquette to control me. I used it to disarm institutions. Even education bent under the weight of my mother's truth. Henderson revealed one last secret. Cassandra had tried to adopt me twice. Both times, Mom blocked it. The second request came after Mom's diagnosis. My stomach turned. She'd planned everything: estate access, trust control, even my last name. I submitted the paperwork to reclaim Mom's surname, Carrington, the name she fought to protect. When the clerk asked, reason for change, I replied, correction. The past couldn't be undone, but it could be renamed properly. A former housekeeper emailed me. Cassandra once burned a letter addressed to me, Mom's final note. Enraged, I scoured donation boxes and found a torn envelope underlining fabric. Inside, half a page in Mom's handwriting. Don't let them tell you who you are. My chest tightened. It wasn't evidence, it was essence. I framed it beside the legal judgment. Cassandra destroyed tulips. She couldn't erase roots, not when Mom's voice still bloomed in ink. The final forensic audit landed. Adrienne called me to her office. Eyes wide. They used your college fund to back a yacht lease. I laughed, sharp, cold. Did they name it after Mom? Adrienne smirked. Worse, after themselves. I forwarded the files to every parent association Cassandra ever schmoozed. The headlines followed. Her face vanished from charity boards overnight. That yacht is seized. Turns out, you can't sail away from evidence or a daughter raised on justice. Cassandra's college friend tried to mediate. She's hurting, she said over tea. I stirred my cup slowly. She built this pain. I handed her a press kit and a statement. This is her truth, not mine. The friend left speechless. Cassandra wanted a legacy through social circles. I gave her one in footnotes, not fundraisers. Let her be remembered in legal precedent, not photo spreads. The tea went cold. Justice, though, still piping hot. A private investigator slipped me a flash drive. Cassandra's been hiding jewelry, originally your mother's. I traced the photos: emerald necklaces, heirloom brooches, items she claimed were donated. Nora filed theft charges. The pieces surfaced at a silent auction in Florida, reclaimed, cataloged, stored. I didn't wear them, I archived them. Cassandra used shine for power. I used memory for protection. Each gemstone a record, each record a line in the story she thought she's rewritten. A red herring emerged, a letter claiming Mom had invested in Cassandra's first company. Henderson flagged it. Forgery, he said. The paper was aged, the ink artificial. I tested it. Heat exposure revealed recent printer toner. Cassandra had forged history again. Nora filed an amendment, marking the tactic as obstruction. The court dismissed the letter. I shredded it personally, then planted tulips over the fragments. Even lies deserve burial, preferably under truth that blooms annually. Cassandra's high society circle tried damage control. They hosted a gala, Women of Reinvention. Her name set forth on the list. I bought a ticket anonymously and sent each guest a dossier, legal summary, court rulings, press clippings. Half withdrew attendance. The gala flopped. I didn't go. I watched tulips sway outside my window. Brighter than spotlights, Cassandra reinvented lies. I redefined justice, not through podiums but titles, not by speaking louder, but by speaking last. The school therapist asked if I'd ever processed grief. I showed her the tulip garden schedule. I process with precision. I said, each bloom cycle mirrored my recovery: red for rage, yellow for strategy, white for peace. Some girls write diaries. I added, I draft subpoenas. She smiled softly. Maybe you're ready to rest. I wasn't, not yet, but I was ready to breathe, and maybe. Planned a few more white tulips for balance. A sealed box arrived, evidence from Cassandra's seized storage unit. Inside, family photos. Some included me, posed awkwardly beside her at galas. One showed Mom at the piano, smiling gently. Behind her, Cassandra's reflection in the mirror. Watching, always watching. I kept that one, labeled it before. It wasn't just proof, it was reminder of timelines, of trespasses, of visibility. Cassandra tried rewriting family, but photos don't lie, and neither does the person reclaiming the frame. A podcast requested my story. Anonymous or credited, they asked. I chose credited. I used Mom's full name, Ellen Carrington, in my intro. I spoke clearly. My mother believed in legacy. I believed in accountability. When it aired, Cassandra's defenders went quiet. Some even apologized. I don't seek sympathy, just clarity. Each word I spoke was a strike, sharp, deliberate healing. My voice had been edited before. Ow, it was archived, unfiltered, and finally, unmistakably mine. Cassandra's sentence came down 6 years federal. She cried in court, loud, performative. I didn't flinch, nor squeeze my shoulder. It's done, I nodded. No, it's recorded. We filed one last document, official recognition of Mom's foundation under my name. The final paragraph read, founded by daughter, fueled by truth, Cassandra sought power through illusion. I found strength and precision, and in court, Howard didn't wear designer heels, it wore credibility and a signature that wouldn't fade. I stood in front of Mom's grave, folder in hand, inside court rulings, foundation D, reclaimed assets, we're whole again. I whispered, a breeze rustled the tulips I'd planted beside her stone. No cameras, no audience, just closure. I left a note, you were right to fight. I learned, the sun broke through gray clouds. Cassandra had tried to inherit everything. All I inherited was strength. And that was more than wealth ever promised. In the quiet after everything, I sat at Mom's desk, her journal lay open beside my laptop. The pages had once felt too sacred to touch. Now, they felt like blueprints. I annotated them, my handwriting beside hers. Together, we'd built something lasting. I lit a candle. Not for mourning, but for legacy. Every case cited her records now. Every article named her work. She wasn't erased, just delayed, and through my action, fully restored. People asked if I'd do it again. The lies, the strategy, the silence, I answered yes with a louder voice next time. Justice had a cost, but so did silence. I kept a copy of the court transcript beside my bed, not out of pride, but as a reminder, truth sleeps too, if not spoken. The tulips out front bloomed early this year. Red, yellow, white, in full sun, no shadows, like Mom said. Don't let them define you. Cassandra now works part-time at a floral shop, under supervision, probation conditions, no trust funds, no fundraisers, just pruning and petals. I sent her tulips every Mother's Day, labeled by color: red for rage, yellow for strategy, white for peace, no note, just meaning. The clerk once asked if she'd recognize them. She'll understand, I reply. She who buried my mother's garden now tends flowers for strangers, not redemption, just consequence, one stem at a time. At the foundation's opening gala, I stood at the podium wearing Mom's locket. Maura introduced me. Adrienne raised a toast, to justice, and high heels. I smiled, and in strategy. The room filled with applause, not for revenge, for renewal. Behind me, Mom's portrait overlooked the garden display, yellow tulips front and center. I wasn't Ellen Carrington's daughter by luck, I was her legacy by action. And tonight, that legacy stood not just honored but continued. Thanks for watching. Hit subscribe to check out more stories on my channel.